In the heart of West Africa, there lies a nation that walks with the majesty of a giant and the wounds of a prisoner. Nigeria, a land where thunder speaks, yet the rain of justice refuses to fall. A land where drums of hope beat in the day, but cries of the helpless echo in the night. Nigeria, a land of miracles and mystery, of crowded streets and empty promises, of drum beats that celebrate life and gunshots that announce death. In today's Nigeria, fear has become a daily companion. Children are kidnapped from schools. Travelers vanish on highways. Villages are raided in the middle of the night. Families now sleep with one ear open, waiting for gunshots, ransom calls, or footsteps at the gates. And recently, the nation was shaken again by the horrifying kidnapping of teachers and students in Oyo State, where one of the teachers was brutally beheaded and the gruesome act circulated on social media like a message of terror. So the question many Nigerians are asking is simple. How did insecurity become so normal? Why are bandits become bolder? Why do kidnappers operate like untouchable empires? Why does the government of over 200 million people still appear to be chasing shadow? And why does a nation as powerful as Nigeria still appear helpless before violence? And perhaps the most painful question of all, how many more Nigerians must die before this nation finally treats insecurity like national emergency? On April 14, 2014, the world was shaken when over 270 schoolgirls were abducted from Chibok in Borno State. The world said, "Bring back our girls." Years passed, then came Kankara in December 2020. Over 300 schoolboys abducted in Katsina State. Then Jangebe in February 2021. More than 300 schoolgirls taken in Zamfara. Then Kaduna train attack in March 2022. Passengers kidnapped like hostages in a war zone. Then on July 5th, 2022, the Kuje correctional facility in Abuja was attacked. Terrorists walked into the nation's capital, breached a prison, and freed hundreds of inmates. And now again, in Oyo State, teachers and students abducted. One of the teachers brutally beheaded, and the horror recorded. The video spread across social media like a message of fear to the entire country. This is no longer ordinary crime. This is a nation under psychological siege. The criminals are no longer hiding. They are performing terror openly.
Strength of Africa TV presents Nigeria under siege. Kidnapping, banditry, and the cry for justice.
In the heart of West Africa, mothers cry through the night. Children dream of gunfire where there once was candlelight. Highways turned to graveyards and schools became a cage of fear. And the silence of the falling grows louder every year. Fathers sell the family land just to bring their loved ones home, while a wounded nation trembles like a child left alone. How long shall the blood keep flowing through the dust of broken dreams? Nigeria is screaming louder than the world believes. Oh, Nigeria, who stole your peace away? Why must your children kneel in fear each day? From Chibok to the highways, hear the mourning in the rain. A giant cries in darkness, drowning slowly in her pain. But through the smoke and sorrow, one prayer remains: may justice rise again. May hope rise again. Oh, oh, hey.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are at this moment. I'm your host, Adebayo Oladokun, and this is Strength of Africa TV, where truth meets courage, where the past is reawakened and the future of the motherland is reclaimed. Today's episode is titled Nigeria Under Siege, Kidnapping, Banditry, and the Cry for Justice. Let's start with a nation living in fear. Every fire begins with just one arrogant spark. Nigeria's insecurity began like that, softly, quietly, like an ant biting a giant's toe. A few villages attacked, a few roads made unsafe, a few whispers of strange men emerging from the forest at dusk, a few stolen cattle, a few burnt huts. But whispers, when ignored, become roars. Nigeria was once called the giant of Africa, a nation of strength, a nation of culture, a nation of unstoppable energy. But today, many Nigerians no longer feel like citizens of a giant. They feel like prisoners trapped inside a collapsing fortress. Across the country, fear now travels faster than hope. In the northwest, bandits raid villages like concrete armies. In the northeast, terrorism still leaves scars that refuse to heal. In the middle belt, communities live between survival and burial. In the southeast, tension and violence continue to rise. And now, even regions once considered relatively safer are beginning to tremble under the shadow of kidnapping and organized crime. The recent abduction in Oyo State did not just shock Nigerians because people were kidnapped. Sadly, kidnappings have become common headlines in Nigeria. What broke the nation emotionally was the cruelty. A teacher, a human being whose duty was to educate children, was reportedly beheaded like a warning to society. And then came the deeper horror. The incident was filmed and spread online. This is no longer ordinary crime. This is psychological warfare. The criminals are no longer hiding in darkness. They now perform terror publicly. And that changes everything. Nigeria is gradually becoming a nation where violence seeks attention, where brutality seeks publicity, and where criminals seek dominance through fear. The people are exhausted. In communities across Zamfara, Kaduna, Niger, Borno, Katsina, Kwara State, and parts of the Middle Belt, people have learned to live between barriers and survival. Whole villages have been emptied. Farmlands have turned into fair lands. Schools have become hunting grounds. And highways, once symbols of movement and economic life, have become stretches of terror. The Abuja-Kaduna Highway, the Benin-Gwari axis, parts of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Benin-Ore-Shagamu corridor. Road users now travel with prayers instead of confidence. Nigeria is slowly becoming a country where survival itself feels like an achievement. Let's look at the business of kidnapping. Kidnapping in Nigeria is no longer random. It has evolved into a structured economy. There are informants inside communities. There are people who track movements. There are negotiators who speak to families like customer service agents of death. There are weapon suppliers. There are financiers. There are people making money from national pain. There are even logistical systems for moving victims through forests and isolated camps. This is why kidnapping continues despite repeated military operations. Because what Nigeria is facing is not merely crime, it's an organized criminal ecosystem. Bandits now kidnap school children because they know it attracts attention and increases ransom pressure. They target highways because movement creates vulnerability. They attack villages because isolated communities lack protection. Some victims are released after payment, some never return. Some return traumatized beyond words. And many families suffer in silence because speaking publicly may endanger the lives of their loved ones. The tragedy is that ransom payments have unintentionally strengthened criminal networks. Every successful ransom operation becomes financial oxygen for future attacks. Weapons are purchased. New recruits are recruited. Motorcycles are acquired. Informant networks expand. Terror reproduces itself. Sometimes they even appear to have better intelligence than the state itself. How does a nation reach this point? How does a government allow criminal networks to evolve into a parallel power? This is why many Nigerians no longer see banditry as ordinary crime. They see it as a national collapse happening in slow motion. Meanwhile, ordinary Nigerians continue funding their own survival. Communities now contribute money for vigilantes. Families sell land to rescue kidnapped relatives. Villagers abandon ancestral homes because survival has become more important than belonging. This is what happens when insecurity becomes normalized. The nation slowly adapts to abnormality. Now, a look at a giant armed but unable to protect. It is a strange irony. To possess a spear so sharp it can split a rock, yet still be conquered by a man with a stone. This is the paradox of Nigeria. Nigeria has one of the largest military forces in Africa, yet many Nigerians feel completely unprotected. That is the painful paradox. A country filled with soldiers, yet overflowing with fear. Now, to be fair, many security personnel are dying quietly in service. Some soldiers fight heroically in terrible conditions. Some police officers continue working despite low resources, poor equipment, and extreme danger. But courage alone cannot replace systemic effectiveness. The problem is bigger than individual sacrifice. Nigerians are tired of press statements after massacres, tired of official condolences after kidnappings, tired of promises that never become reality. After every attack, the same script emerges. The government condemns the incident. Security agencies have been deployed. The perpetrators will be brought to justice, but the people keep dying. And over time, repetition without results destroys trust. That is why many communities now rely on local vigilantes. They have reached a point where they feel if we don't defend ourselves, nobody will. That is a very dangerous place for a country to arrive. Because once citizens lose confidence in state protection, the idea of nationhood itself begins to crack. A government's first duty is security. When people can no longer travel safely, farm safely, sleep safely, or send their children to school safely, then something fundamental has failed. Because insecurity is no longer a regional issue, it is becoming a national identity crisis. Let's examine the shadows of complicity. Now we enter dangerous territory. Across Nigeria, whispers continue to spread. Are some powerful individuals benefiting from insecurity? This question refuses to disappear because many attacks appear too coordinated, too repeated, and too sophisticated. How do armed groups move so freely? How do kidnappers repeatedly escape detection? How do criminal camps survive for so long? How do weapons continue entering in the country? These questions fuel public suspicion. Some Nigerians believe political actors secretly sponsor violence for influence and territorial control. Others suspect corruption inside security structures. Others believe criminal networks have infiltrated local systems. Now, it is important to be responsible here. Accusations without evidence are dangerous. But ignoring public fear is equally dangerous. When citizens repeatedly lose trust in institutions, rumors begin replacing confidence. And this is why transparency matters. The Nigerian people do not merely want reassurances. They want accountability. They want visible action. They want arrest. They want prosecutions. They want proof that nobody is above the law. Because when criminals appear untouchable for too long, society begins to suspect invisible protection. And once trust collapses between citizens and institutions, insecurity becomes even more difficult to defeat. Some Nigerians now believe that corruption has become a security threat, that some people are getting rich from the economy of fear, that security failures are sometimes connected to political games. Whether these fears are true or not, one fact remains clear. A government that fails to communicate transparently creates room for distrust. And distrust is dangerous in times of national crisis. Because a nation cannot win a war when the people no longer trust the system fighting the war. My people, let's have a look at social media and the new face of terror. Years ago, criminals hid their crimes. Today, many criminals record them. The circulation of violent videos online represents a frightening evolution in modern insecurity. The goal is no longer only physical harm. The goal is emotional domination. Terrorists and bandits understand something powerful. Fear spreads faster through images. When people watch gruesome videos online, entire communities become psychologically traumatized. Children become fearful. Parents panic. Communities feel helpless. This is digital terror. And unfortunately, social media platforms often become unwilling carriers of fear. Now, this does not mean people should ignore reality. No. The nation must confront the truth. But there is a difference between awareness and glorification. When violent content spreads uncontrollably, criminals achieve something dangerous: visibility. They become infamous. They dominate conversations. They project power. Nigeria must therefore confront not only physical insecurity, but psychological insecurity as well. Because a frightened population becomes easier to destabilize. Now, to the people who refuse to give up. But despite everything, Nigeria is still standing, and that matters. Across the country, ordinary citizens continue showing extraordinary resilience. Local vigilante groups defend vulnerable communities. Some traditional rulers organize local security coordination. Civil society organizations continue demanding accountability. Journalists continue exposing difficult truths. Many security officers still fight bravely despite enormous risks. And the Nigerian people continue surviving. That resilience is important. Because nations do not survive only through governments. They survive through the determination of their people. Nigeria's spirit has not died. It is wounded. It is exhausted, but it is not dead. And history shows something powerful. No nation can permanently remain captive to fear if its people refuse to surrender psychologically. Nigeria cannot continue treating insecurity as ordinary news. This crisis demands urgency. The security architecture must be reformed. Intelligence coordination must improve. Corruption within security systems must be confronted honestly. Border security must become stronger. Local communities must be included in security strategies. Victims must receive support. and justice must become visible. The government must understand something fundamental. Citizens lose faith not only when attacks happen, but when accountability disappears afterward. Nigeria also needs leadership that communicates clearly and acts decisively, not leadership that appears disconnected from public pain. The people want courage, they want seriousness, they want consistency. Most importantly, they want to believe that their lives matter. Because when citizens stop believing the state can protect them, national unity itself begins to weaken. Can Nigeria still be saved? Yes. But only if the country stops pretending. Nigeria must stop normalizing horror. This cannot continue as just another news story. This is a national emergency. The country needs serious security reform, better intelligence coordination, stronger border control, border surveillance, local community partnerships, faster response systems, and above all, political will, real political will, not speeches, not ceremonies, not media performance. And this is where many Nigerians are now raising a question that can no longer be ignored. Is it time for state policing and community policing in Nigeria? Because let us face reality. A country as large, as complex, and as populated as Nigeria cannot effectively be secured only from Abuja. The security challenges in Borno are not the same as those in Rivers State. The security realities in Katsina are different from those in Lagos. Yet, the entire country still operates under a highly centralized policing structure. This has created gaps, dangerous gaps. Many local communities know the criminals terrorizing them. They know the forest they hide in. They know the informants. They know the movement patterns. But a centralized system often responds too slowly, too distantly, or without sufficient local intelligence. This is why many security experts argue that state policing and community policing are no longer optional. They are necessary. Look at the Amotekun Corps in Southwest Africa, created in 2020 by the Southwestern governors. Amotekun emerged because communities felt increasingly vulnerable to kidnappers, bandits, and highway criminals. Why not perfect? It has shown something important. Local security structures often understand local threats better. They speak the language. They know the terrain. They understand community dynamics. In the Northwest and parts of the North Central, local vigilante groups have also helped communities resist bandit attacks where state response was slow or insufficient. In Borno State, the Civilian Joint Task Force, the CJTF, played a significant role in supporting the fight against Boko Haram because they possessed local knowledge that traditional security structures sometimes lacked. This is not to say community policing is without risk. Yes, there are concerns. Some fear that state policing could be abused by politicians. Others fear ethnic or political bias, and these fears are valid. But should the fear of abuse stop the country from exploring reforms that could save lives? The real question should be, how do we build accountable state and community policing? Not whether we should avoid it completely. Because right now, many Nigerians feel like they are defending themselves anyway. The difference is that they are doing it without enough structure, training, oversight, or legal support. A country under this level of security pressure cannot afford to ignore localized security solutions. Nigeria needs a security system that both national in strength and local in intelligence. Because when a village is under attack at 1 a.m., the people do not care about political arguments in Abuja. They care about who will arrive in time to save their lives. Another hard truth Nigeria must confront is the dangerous state of many of its abandoned and under-policed forest reserves. Across different parts of the country, thousands of hectares of forest lands have gradually transformed into safe havens for bandits, kidnappers, armed smugglers, and terror networks. These forests, once meant for conservation, agriculture, and environmental protection, are now in many cases functioning as invisible kingdoms of criminality. From parts of the Kamuku forest in Kaduna State to the Fagoric forest in Kano, to forest corridors stretching across Zamfara, Niger State, Kebbi, and parts of the Middle Belt. The story is often the same. Vast territories, little government presence, minimal surveillance, and criminals who know the terrain better than security forces. These forests have become escape routes after attacks, hiding places for hostages, weapon storage zones, and operational bases for mass kidnapping networks. This is why many Nigerians now believe the government must make a decisive choice. Either properly secure, police, monitor, and clear these forest reserves, or hand many of the fallowed and underutilized areas over to host communities for structured economic use, agriculture, and community monitoring. Because empty land without state control quickly becomes occupied by criminal control. Nature hates a vacuum, and so does insecurity. When communities have legitimate economic activities inside these spaces, farming, forestry, ranching, community surveillance, local security posts, it becomes harder for criminals to operate unseen. But when thousands of hectares remain ungoverned, unpatrolled, and disconnected from community ownership, they become perfect sanctuaries for lawlessness. No country can win a security war while allowing massive territories to function like unmonitored shadow states. The forests of Nigeria must stop being refuges for terror. They must either become economic assets for the people or strongly secured territories under constant state control. Because right now, too many bandits enter those forests as fugitives and emerge from them as kings of fear. But despite everything, hope still exists. Yes, hope still exists. Why? Because even after all this pain, Nigerians are still standing. They are tired but not destroyed, wounded but not finished, bent but not broken. And history has shown us something powerful. No darkness lasts forever. Nigeria now stands at a crossroad between fear and redemption. One road leads to a future where kidnapping becomes normal, where children grow up believing gunshots are part of life, where communities become refugee camps inside their own country. The other road leads to recovery, reform, and accountability, and national rebirth. But that road demands courage. Courage from leaders, courage from security institutions, courage from communities, and courage from the people themselves. Because no nation can survive forever while bleeding internally. The blood of innocent Nigerians is crying out. The tears of mothers are crying out. The silence of mass graves is crying out. The history is watching. The question now is simple. Will Nigeria rise, or will it continue drifting deeper into the shadows? Nigeria must stop pretending the crisis is small. The nation must confront insecurity with urgency, courage, and sincerity. Because every day this violence continues, another family breaks, another child loses innocence, another community loses peace, and yet, even in darkness, hope still survives. Because nations have recovered before. History has seen wounded countries rise again. And Nigeria too can rise if leadership becomes serious, if institutions become accountable, and if the people refuse to normalize fear. This episode is not merely a discussion, it is a call for responsibility, a call for justice, a call for national awakening. Because a nation that cannot protect its people risks losing more than territory, it risks losing its soul. Thank you for watching Strength of Africa TV. If this message resonates, share it, amplify it, and join the movement to reclaim the African future. The night may try to terrify us, but night is not eternal. Morning has never failed to return. The darkness may have its moments, but the dawn always wins. And before we go, let us say a short prayer for Nigeria. May God heal the wounds of this nation. May every family living in fear find peace again. May those held captive return home safely. May the blood of the innocent never be forgotten. May wisdom, courage, and true leadership rise in this land. And may Nigeria once again become a country where children can sleep without fear, where farmers can return to their fields, and where hope is stronger than terror. Amen and amen. I'm your host, Adebayo Oladokun, and this is Strength of Africa TV. If you find value in this conversation, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Endeavor to join our membership and give us super thanks. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Rumble. For advert placement, visit us online at Strength of Africa TV. Watch out for the next episode. You don't want to miss it. Until then, tell your own story, because Africa's future is written in African ink. Stay rooted, stay bold, stay African. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode. Bye.
Hey. In the heart of West Africa, mothers cry through the night. Children dream of gunfire where there once was candlelight. Highways turned to graveyards, and schools became a cage of fear. And the silence of the falling grows louder every year. Fathers sell the family land just to bring their loved ones home, while a wounded nation trembles like a child left alone. How long shall the blood keep flowing through the dust of broken dreams? Nigeria is screaming louder than the world believes. Oh, Nigeria, who stole your peace away? Why must your children kneel in fear each day? From Chibok to the highways, hear the mourning in the rain. A giant cries in darkness, drowning slowly in her pain. But through the smoke and sorrow, one prayer remains: may justice rise again. May hope rise again.